go a little wider. Brings ball back for Marshall. The footwork. Benji Marshall. Now the speed. The footwork again. Away from Peachy. Passes without looking. Away for Richards. Back to Fitzhenry. That is as good as you will see.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of SuperCoach Tragics podcast. I'm your host, Dan, back from a week rest with my illness. Ready to go. With me tonight, I'm joined by three experts. Firstly, Glen, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. I think you're using the word experts a little loosely there, brother, but I'm here.
Yeah, I heard you all laugh at me when I said self-proclaimed experts last time, so I thought I'd try to be a bit nicer this week. How'd you go last week, mate?
Mate, I had a Barry Crocker, shocker. I got 861. I had Brandon Smith go down, James Newell-Brain go down, Russell go down. It was just a nightmare, but I still managed to scrape 861 and apparently 30K ranked higher than all of you guys, so I'll have to not complain.
No, thanks for the spoiler alert, mate. I think all good. Next up, we have Bride, mate. How was your week, mate?
Yeah, no, I had a good week. Won a cricket grand final. I don't know what else happened. Supercoach starts this week, yeah?
Yeah, this week, yeah.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, my team's looking good for this week. So.
Awesome. And finally, last but not least, we have Chris. Welcome back, Chris.
Thanks, mate. Yep, I'm going pretty shit in the Supercoach Stakes at about had an 807 score last week with I think probably half of the side scoring around under 30. So going well. But it is the season of the ambush for the Broncos, so look out.
Yeah, that's it. Normally they're the matchup you look for, but I think I'll be dodging that. You watch this week, they'll come back to reality. Yeah, well, my score this week was worse than probably most of yours, except for one person here is Broad, beating him by a massive 1 point. I got 795, ranked around the 87,000 mark, which is just terrible. But I'm still pretty confident. I like my team still. A lot of my guns didn't fire, but yeah, I'm sticking with it. I'm not making any trades this week personally. I'm going to keep going. I'm sticking strong with it. We'll start off. We'll shout out the SuperCoach 360 website. Jump on there, guys. SuperCoach360.com. A lot of good articles on there. A lot of great content being put out by a lot of different people out there, which is great. I know Glenn puts a lot of stuff out there, and I know Ross and Tim put stuff out there. Yeah, just jump on, have a look, guys. It's got some good stuff on there. And we'll start off with the news. Plenty of news out there. I think there's a few injuries out there. Glenn, how'd you go finding that, mate?
I did, mate. I'll just quickly jump through that. So we have a bit of an injury ward this week. So we got Sean Russell, who's gone down from the Eels indefinitely. Leota from the Panthers with a shoulder. Sean Johnson's gone out with a pec strain. DWZ with a broken thumb. And Viliani Valaye, however you say it, is 3 weeks with an MCL. Brandon Smith went down 5 weeks with a broken hand. Christian Welsh with an Achilles. He's out for the season. George Jennings is also out for the season. And, I think his was the Achilles. But anyway, they're both out for the season, so that's sad. Josh Hodgson, minor knee complaint. He should be back in 2 weeks. Young Snyder, the half, he's out with COVID. Rapana turns round 3 and Fogarty round 16. Flegler's about to return round 4. Tessie New comes back in. Tavita Pangai Jr. hammy to be cleared and RFM foot indefinitely. Sharks McInnes is he was named in the extended squad, so there's a possibility that he could even jump into that starting 17. Who else have I got here? AJ Brimson is about to come in. Walker returns. Schuster round 6. Daniel Saifidi 2 and 3. And I think that's all of them, mate. I've got Beryl's thumb and Little 4 to 6 and Akapoa from the Tigers round 8 to 14 for Dewey.
So Croker's got a slip disc in his back now.
Who has?
So not only so he'll be out for a fair while.
Who was that, mate?
Croker.
Oh yeah, Jared Croker. Yep.
And AJ looking to be fullback this week with the Titans fullback looking to pull out. So.
Yeah, I think it means a lot of people jumping on Will Smith this week. They actually might be getting lucky, I think, because I think that was a weird trade, actually. It was one of the biggest trade-ins this week, and I think they're all going to get pretty lucky now. He's going to get a couple more games. I think it's 2 more games. He'll probably get there. So, but yeah, I'll give everyone advice now. Don't bring in Will Smith. You might get a couple of good games out of him, but it's just a massive trap. All right, guys, we're going to do something a bit different today. Instead of going through team lists like every other podcast, you already heard them all, so we're not going to go through that. We're going to go through each position and discuss all the options out there that we can look at, how they went on the weekend. And then obviously everyone's got a few problems with their team, me especially. So we're going to go through every position and see what we can do to try to maybe remedy some of those issues. We'll start off with hooker. Chris, what do you think of the best hookers to go for this week, mate? If you've got, say, someone like me and you're an idiot and you've got Nicarima, what would you do, mate?
Yeah, that was actually a move I was contemplating for a long time during the preseason, Nico at hooker, but unfortunately, when I heard, or fortunately, I guess, when I heard that Connor Watson was going to be taking over the hooking role for about 5 or 6 weeks, I jumped on him, so managed to dodge that bullet, but not by much, because I thought he was a genuine option there with that draw. But yeah, hooker's a bit of a strange position this year, I figure, because you've got people like Reed Marnie, who could probably go well, didn't go so well in the first round, but it was a very strange game. A lot of side-to-side football, a lot of points scored in the first half, so not a great deal of tackles made in the middle. So it's kind of hard to judge him on that one performance, whereas if there are closer games, I think he will have some pretty big base and he'll probably put a few forwards over for tries. So definitely don't sleep on him. He's a pretty good option and probably looking likely to play 80 most of the season. So, yeah, other than that, Cook looked okay. He didn't do a great deal, but it looked like he had a bit more weight on his shoulders this year with Reynolds not being around. So he might be another option. But other than that, it's just wait and see for me to see what happens with Grant. I just want to see how they use him. Is he going to play 80? So it's all a bit of a mystery to me.
Yeah, I think with Wishart on the bench there, it's a bit of a worry. We're not sure what's going to happen there. So I think for me personally, it's a wait and see. But a lot of people out there actually got him up and played Randall and held him on the bench for round one. Brod, so that you're one of those guys, mate. So you don't have to worry about hooker at the moment. But what do you think anyway of other positions, other hookers that you might be viable options?
Mate, Grant's my VC this week, so can't do worse than my last week. Captain, it's got to be better. Well, what is it? Nearly 10,000 people have jumped on Appy. So obviously they like what they saw in the one game. I wouldn't recommend it. Appy wouldn't be in the top 3 that I would choose. Hopefully they're going for cash and looking for a quick buck. But yeah, look, if I didn't own Grant, I'd be the same position as you guys. I'd be looking at Cook or Grant in the next couple of weeks and seeing which one to jump on. So
yeah, well, Appy got a 91 last week. A lot of attacking stats there, and also in 67 minutes, which I think will be the norm for him. So I don't see him getting 91 every week in 67 minutes. So yeah, I'd stay away from that as well. It's a very quick cash grab. I think people are just chasing last week's points there. Glenn, mate, any other options there you can show us, mate?
Well, just to give a little plug here, I just wrote an article today, which will come up on the SuperCoach 360 page, hopefully in the next 24 hours, called Mr. Fix It. And I wrote quite a bit about Apai Coruscant, Cook, Grant. And I wrote about Apai with a bit of disdain. I think that's people are looking at the attacking stats. And look, I get it. His price range is good. He should probably make some money, and he's in a ceiling side. They're the pluses. I think the minutes were a little obscure. We're not sure with they had, I can't remember who it was went down, but someone went down in that game. But it's what interested me was his base was only 38. He got a try assist, line break assist, and a line break. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of inflated stats in that for me. I actually like Cook. Cook's base was quite better. He scored 53 points. I think it was his base was 58 points. He played 80 minutes. And that for me is a huge plus, is the minutes, you know, and that's one of my fears with Grant. So this week I actually have Brandon Smith. I was going to go down to Cook, and then I've made the decision that I have a strong enough bench where I can play 3 second rowers and Pappenhausen or Teddy, whichever way I go, and that I can wait a week and decide between Grant and Cook. So they're the only 2 options. I think Reed Mahoney's not a bad option either. I think again, the minutes is an issue for me, not playing the 80. But what I do like about Reid again is that draw. I think the Eels have a nice pack, and he tends to be around the ball a lot. So they're the only one to, and obviously Randall. I mean, if you don't already own Randall, you should already be on that.
Yeah, I love about Randall is he did exactly what we want him to do. In a round there, no one did what we want him to do. He's the only one that stood strong for us. So I'll go through a few points for the weekend. So Appy got 91, which I touched on, 67 minutes. There was 1, 2, 3 that I saw that actually played the full 80. Obviously out of position, we've got Will Smith out of position playing the 80 there, and that'll happen for probably 2 more weeks. So don't get caught on that one. And then we also had Blake Brayley play 80 minutes as well. So I actually considered him as well. I spoke to you before about Blake Brayley. He had 52 points in base and base attack alone. I know that try got him up to 73, which is it is great, and I like that. But you touched on it before, but McInnes is back there in the running for a position again, and he has the potential there. And I know he'll be playing most of his minutes in the middle at lock, but he potentially will be coming in and relieving a hooker for a bit. I know Brayley is quite young and can play a lot of minutes, but I don't know how long he can hold it up for as well. He is a small body. The other thought we can talk in point here as well would be Starling. A lot of people might jump onto Starling, but Hodgson's injury is actually less severe than expected. He should be back within 1 to 2 weeks at the moment. So, which is a shame. Not trying to say anything bad about Hodgson, but Starling has the potential to be one of the best Supercoach hookers in the game if he just got those minutes. All right, so guys, we'll move on to the front row forwards. Chris, any front row forwards, mate, besides Haas that stood out for you?
I've got to be honest, there weren't many. I do really like the look of the dual position gentleman at the Cowboys, Gilbert. He looked really good. Like him playing, more than 65 minutes it's gonna be quite good for Supercoach purposes. He generally he plots along at about a point a minute, so I really did like that. He only just had the one little try without a line break added to his normal stats. So yeah, it's probably looking like he probably hits 55 points in and around that 70. I think he played 72 minutes or something like that.
It was 75 minutes he played. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, so it's not too bad. Other than that, I thought Arrow looked pretty good. He played some pretty decent minutes, about 72 minutes from memory. Yeah, he looked good, and it made me kind of regret not starting with him because I unfortunately started with Jacob Saifiti, and he was just awful. And he was a pod too, so I think he scored like 39 points. But I figured, Daniel Saifiti's out, so why not give it a go? I figured him or Clemmer will do some decent minutes, but no, it's unfortunately because Barnett's on the bench, it sort of puts it all out because he's got quite a big motor. So yeah, but other than those two, those three, I'm not really enthused by anyone. A little bit disappointed in a few guys. Paulo, he didn't really do much. AFB didn't do much. It kind of looks like those guys are a bit under the fitness cloud. They probably need to do a bit of the Fat Boys fitness camp to get themselves up to scratch. Because they just weren't putting out their normal sort of work rate. So yeah, Haas looks the goods, really does.
Yeah, well, one of my strategies was to go cheaper in the front row. So I literally started with Arrow was my most expensive front rower, and I was happy with Arrow. I saw that he played 72 minutes, and a lot of that was in the middle. He pushed into the middle and played a lot of so made a lot of tackles there. So that 62 points he got was all in base really, and in that team with the attacking flair, it won't take long for attacking sets to come. And I also decided to go with JTB as well as my other front rower, my starting front rower. So, which is a bit of a kick in the pants this week. So I'm deciding to hold because it's only a short stint on the sideline. I think it's 1 to 2 weeks with a PCL. I'll have to find a way around that, try and get a starting front rower, which is going to be a bit of a challenge for me. Broad, mate, how did you go with your front rows, mate? Anyone else stood out for you?
Oh, well, I started with Lindsay Collins and Stefano. Obviously, they both got around the 45 mark, so can't be too upset. Probably do need to get Haas. Do have a little bit of change in the bank. that I can upgrade one of my second rowers or front rowers to Haas. I just think he's going to be miles ahead, which I said all year, and I still didn't go him. But yeah, I think there was a lot. I mean, it's the first week. We can't really go and judging everyone in their first week. But if you're looking to bring someone in, maybe someone like Lodge. So I think he's just going to kill it this year. He's toned down his anger by fishing, so hopefully he just stays on the field because we know what he can do.
Yeah, I really like Lodge as well. I think I picked him up in a lot of my drafts because everyone was ignoring him because he had the first week off. So I do like Lodge a lot. Now, he's that guy that'll just get you the points. He won't be anything special. He'll just get you points, which is great. Glenn, how'd you go, mate? Any front rows there that took your fancy?
Well, there was a couple, mate. Yeah, so the ones that I started with was Haas, obviously, who we all know what he can do, so I won't talk too much on him. I started Bullimore, and although the result was right, what I saw from him I didn't really like. I mean, with Bullimore, his break even's at 2, and he played 80 minutes. He scored 62 points, and his base was at 45. He got that with a try. He didn't get the line break, but for me, it was kind of ugly and it's risky. I actually had James Noah-Brown on my bench with the plan of playing Bullimore until Schuster come back and then moving JTB onto the field. And from what I saw of James Noah-Brown, I thought he was really good. But the one that I do like that nobody's mentioning is Isaiah Papali. Now, I obviously wouldn't jump on him now. He's 90K above Haas. But when he comes down a little bit in money, playing for the Eels, second row, 80 minutes, I think he had 8 tackle busts. The guy, as he works into his fitness, I think that Haas and Isaiah Papali as your two starting front rowers won't hurt you too much. I think the other two that I had written about, I wrote about Arrow and I also wrote about Lodge, interestingly. So they were the ones that I actually, at points per dollar, I think Lodge and Arrow stand out. Bullimore, I think if you don't own him, don't get him. If you do own him, hold him. Even when he does go to the bench, you'll probably still play 40 minutes and make you some money. But once he gets to that where the break-even balances out with the money, he's a sell for me.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Chris touched on it earlier, but I think the standouts beside Haas were the actual jewels, like you touched on. The jewels are the ones that really stood out a lot. So obviously Gilbert, you got Thompson there, Arrow, Bullimore, all these guys are the one, and even IPAP stood out pretty well. So which is kind of good for us, really, to have those. If we get those guys in at some point, we can have that flexibility with trades. All right, guys, let's move on to the second row forwards, guys. This is where I bolstered up my team, and it didn't even work for me. So how'd you go, Chris? What do you think about the second rowers?
Yeah, it's a bit of a minefield out there from the just looking at it in the first round. I think there's a lot of value in the mid prices this year, to be honest with you. Like guys like Martin and obviously Jai Arrow, who we mentioned before. Then you've got Nanai, who played 80 minutes, but obviously like in the in that Cowboy structure, like Peyton is sort of, you just don't know what he's going to do. He might just, Nanai could be in one week and he could be out of the team the next. So it's sort of hard to trust in that. But I found the surprise packet was Isaiah Yeo. He was incredible. And like, it seems that they rely on him a lot when Cleary's not there. So I would expect him to see 80 minutes at least for the next, 4 rounds or so until Cleary's back. And I think he's a really good purchase, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, no, he's like very. As a Panthers fan, I've always loved Yo, and even before he was always this underrated guy that everyone was like, hey, he just does nothing. He does nothing. The stuff he does for the halves as that middleman is so good to watch if you actually take notice. As people are starting to notice now, which is really good. Brodo, what do you think, mate? Anything in the second row?
I should have started my team with my 14 Broncos, which I wanted to. Obviously, I think Carrigan's, the Broncos, nothing special, but he looks good for me. Well, if Capewell keeps kicking field goals, man, I'm going to have to go him. Obviously, I started off with a pretty packed second row bench, and Katoa was my standout player, which was pretty lucky. But yeah, I'm on David. I'm on Fifi this week as captain probably, because I think he should be able to tear up the Warriors, especially with all the injuries and the the filling gaps. But it's too early to judge off this round one. But hopefully my second row picks up their game and does something this week. Crichton, stupid idiot.
Well, Glen's on track with his prediction at the start of the year by 6 points. So Crichton outscored Fafita by 6 points there.
Yeah,
so,
but lost to about 15 others.
Right, I said you'd outscore Fafita. I never mentioned others.
Yeah, he worded it
Sure
correctly.
it was the top one.
I think you'll find that may change this week, actually. Again, I think Fafita might go real well this week, I think. Fafita, by all standards, to me, looked like it was very quiet and still punched out at 60. So I'm pretty happy with that. I reckon there's some more points to come from him. Glenn, any other ones stand out for you, mate?
Yeah, there's a few, mate, that I feel like. So we looked at a couple that were in the points per dollar range, Katoa Broad mentioned. So I thought that he was good. What I thought was good there was he played 74 minutes. And which I didn't expect. I don't know, there's some reasoning behind that, so I'll be watching again this week. I thought the other one for the Tigers was Tuolagi. I thought Tuolagi stood out. I'm bringing in Tuolagi this week for Russell and bringing Targo down. And I had Angus and Fifi as well, Katoa, Aiken and Tuolagi. So I'm putting Aiken and Targo down to centre wing because I think that's where their value is, and bringing in Tuolagi. But the other one that you mentioned was Yo and Martin. I mean, they were incredible. I just thought that Yo, as you talk about, he comes in and he plays that kind of half role. He defends great in the middle. He's got incredible base and he runs. I mean, what more can you ask for? And he's only about 515K or something from memory. He's not priced too ugly either. So Yo or Martin will be coming into my side next round. Possibly. I want to have one more look. I mean, they had Eisenhuth drop out last week and Salmon came in. So that made things better for Yo and Martin, in my opinion. Others didn't agree with that summation. But so I'll be interested to see how that pans out. Now that they've lost Leota, I think Eisenhuth could even possibly start. And I think we'll see 70, even 80 minutes from Yo.
Right, when he kicks field goals, come back and see me.
When he goes to the Broncos, he has to kick field goals, mate. Not with the Panthers.
It's a shame Capel doesn't play on that right side outside A-Ray, because I think that, Capel is someone I looked at. They're both at that price point of 430, Capel and Martin. And the thing is that I just like the ceiling of the Panthers club. I think that, they're playing the Dragons this week. I think Martin could actually put on a couple of tries if the ball. I really like SOS. We'll get to the halves, but I thought he really stood up for the Panthers this week.
What, you don't reckon the Broncos are going to tell up the Dogs?
I'm hoping. I got Stags, mate, and I didn't sell on that basis. But, geez, I've said it to you before, and I'm going to say it again. I don't know what the frig they're doing, mate. I look for attack patterns, and I just can't find it in that Broncos. On paper, that is a really good side, being really poorly coached. And I'm saying that with, I know you're all Broncos fans here, and I'm not trying to run them down. I think they've got a great team. I just would like to know what they're doing. Even when they had SOS, if you guys remember me saying it in the chat, play the guy. Play SOS. He's an incredible half. And look what he did the other day for the Panthers. He really straightened them up, and I think he could have done that for your Broncos.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll get to the second rowers here that I'm looking at now. So, if you look, a couple of guys that didn't get talked about was Hudson Young. Did really well. Played the 80 minutes, got 80 points, 1 ppm, which is great. Another quiet achiever was Frizzell, got 77 points. Yeah. He did bugger all fancy stuff. It was just all work rate. It was great. And then even Fitzgibbon, a bit of a roller coaster there, so I wouldn't touch him. But the other one is the biggest roller coaster would be William and kick out as well. He got a very nice score there. What did he get? He got 87 points in 57 minutes. That was the worry for me. It was the 57 minutes. He did look like he was very interested and was keen to play, but I'm not sure how long that'll last. You guys know what he's like. He can get pretty lazy at times as well. And obviously, Capewell gets a nice 70 points as well. All right, let's move on to the halfbacks, guys. So, Chris, what do you think about the halfbacks, mate? There's I went the wrong way. How did you go?
Yeah, I probably went down that path as well. I'm guessing your wrong way was Sam Walker. Yeah,
It was indeed.
So yeah, I'm in that boat too, mate. But I'm not too worried, to be honest. I think Sammy's going to come good. It's just you just got to understand that he's going to, when he has those down games, he's not one of those guys that has a 36 base. He's down there in the 20s somewhere. So we just got to persevere. He's got a really good draw coming up. So I don't even care about price drops. I'm just going to hold him and just watch him go. But other than that, there's some really good options. Like if you look at Hines, his performance was pretty amazing. He had 36 in base, and then he's got the goal kicking, and he likes to run a lot. And I think slowly as the season goes by, he's going to have his hands all over that team, and I feel like the points are going to come. So he's definitely a guy I've got my eye on at the moment. Other than that, Moses. His base is pretty terrible. If you look at it, it's probably it's probably 20 or just under 20. But he was really running that team. He was playing both sides of the field. It's one of those things that I don't think I've seen him do before in the Eels. So and the score backed him up. So I think he's going to go really well this year. And I think the Eels are probably going to go pretty well into the top 3. So yeah, he's definitely a guy I've got my eye on as well. And Hughes, obviously, he's incredible. Base of 32, ends up scoring 100 points. So yeah, those are my guys. And other than Cleary, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I do agree. There's a couple of standouts this week, but I think that's just a 1 week thing as well. So, Bright, any for you, mate?
Oh, just the same as obviously Chris. Just looking at some numbers, Luke Keary was owned by 28% of people in that position, which surprises me a lot, especially with his history. But when you get down to Sam Walker, who had the 12%, the only thing that really hurts is that Hughes, Moses, and Hines were all owned by more people. So all those people got a nice little jump on the start. But I'm the same as Chris. Get through this week, and I think hopefully the Roosters that we all thought would be premiership favourites click on and start tearing up teams, which they should with that roster.
Yeah, I think, and the other thing as well is Robbo is a good coach. He knows what he's doing, so I don't think he's going to take that lightly. He's going to come in firing. It's going to be a pretty. I'm tipping. I shouldn't be, but I'm tipping the Roosters to beat Manly this weekend as well. So, Glenn, how about you, mate? Any others, mate?
Oh, yeah, it's a couple, mate. So I started with Walker. Every side I made this year, I had Hughes and Moses and somehow landed on Walker. I don't know how that happened. I thought, though, Sexton stood out this round for points per dollar at his price range. I thought played really well. I thought young Snyder, had a really Supercoach-friendly game, and there was a lot from him that I really like. I know he's out for a week with COVID, but if you don't have him, you should. I think that, as long as his job security is fine, I think that kid's really going to put on some scores. The other ones, who else did I have? Yeah, so Hughes, DCE, and Hines. Hughes stood out to me. Hines played well, and I thought DC had a good game, but not great. But the one that really stood out to me, and I mean, none of us can really buy him, was SOS. I thought he was incredible. He kicked 365 metres from memory. He had he really led that team around the park. So, but from a Supercoach perspective, if you're looking to go down from Walker, I think Moses and Sexton are both good buys.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, SOS is Sean O'Sullivan from the Panthers. So I know some people get a bit confused with the abbreviations, but yeah, I love Soz. I reckon he's a solid little player, and I fell under that mirage that with Cleary out, we were going to lose, but I should have known better, because I know that Cleary is a phenomenal player and he does make the team better. But I do find that the most of the nucleus is there. You got JFH back, you got Yo back, and Soz did a great job too. Glenn?
I just left one out, mate. I've got to mention my man Brooks. I think Brooksy had a great game, and I know a lot of people heap crap on him, but I really thought he played well this week, and his base is actually really good for a half. So, I mean, and he was goal kicking as well. So, I mean, he's a must-have. No, I'm joking. But I got to give him a rap. I thought he played really well. I thought the Tigers played really well. The only difference in that side, and I guess you boys would probably agree with me, was when Nass came on. I mean, didn't he make a difference, Nass, when he came on in that game? He just really started getting that up the middle stuff going. And that gave those Storm the ability to get on the back foot and get those players like Hughes and Pappenhausen into the play. But I thought the Tigers played really well, and I think Brooks did a really good job, and even Hastings, who we'll get to the 5'8".
And when you say Brooks, you're not telling people to buy him.
No,
You're
don't
just
do
saying
that.
he had a good game on the field. Yeah.
He's a good draft
Just,
option.
just to clarify.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, but I don't mind Sexton. I really don't. I think Sexton is a buy if you want to go down. And I mean, if you're looking to get money into your side and you need to draw from somewhere, I don't think Walker to Sexton's a terrible option. Although, as Chris was saying a minute ago, I think Moses touches the ball just about more than any other half in the game. And the more you touch the ball, the more opportunities you create. You know what I mean? And I don't know if you know that they play this sweet play where they go out left, he gives it to Gutho, and Gutho puts in Russell repeatedly. And that often used to steal from Moses. But if you hadn't noticed, there was a couple of plays where Gutho was first receiver, Moses was second receiver, and then he put out Wacker Blake. And I can't remember who it was. Brown center and Blake went to wing, I think. And I mean, although he dropped it a couple of times over the line, there was one that Moses set up nicely. So I think Moses is a great option to buy.
Yeah. I'll just touch on the ones that were missed. We got most of them, but obviously you touched on DCE. He got 60 points in a game where they got smashed, so that was actually a pretty good effort from DCE there. Clifford got 68 points on a team that's probably not going to play that good ever again. And also, I think we've got them all now. Actually, yeah, that's it. So everyone else, I think Hastings is definitely, if you can wait on him. If you ever wanted to downgrade someone like a Walker, you can definitely wait on him because he's not going to go up very quickly. He's had a pretty rough first game. We'll move on to the 5'8" now. Chris, anyone in the 5'8", mate, that stood out for you?
Yeah, you actually just mentioned him, but I thought I might go into a little bit more detail with Jake Clifford.
Yeah.
He actually kind of surprised me the way he managed the game against the Roosters, and historically he actually has played really well against the Roosters. He himself. I remember there was a game where they were massive underdogs against them. I think it was might have been back in 2020, and he absolutely tore them apart. But yeah, very obviously. I think he's only played since last year, so it might have been. It was 2020 actually. But yeah, he's definitely an option. I think we need to probably see a couple more weeks from him because he's obviously hasn't gone that well in the past, consistency-wise. But I think having Joey Johns there to coach the halves and the spine, I think that's had a huge influence on him. And his game's changed a lot this is just over one off season, so he's definitely a guy to watch. Other than that, Cameron Munster, he's looking fitter and nastier than ever. He played that one, I think he played like a 20, 25-minute spell in the trials, and he was just tearing teams apart. So he definitely has to be taken seriously, and I think he's going to be a weapon in that Melbourne team, and we'll be looking for a bit of redemption. So yeah, he's about the only guy I really like at 5'8", other than Cody Walker. But I think I'm going to make this call now. I don't think the Bunnies make the 8, and I think Cody Walker is going to have a terrible season.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't look too good. I don't think they won't make the 8, but I reckon they'll take a lot longer to get started. But they're definitely not the team they were last year. So, brought any for you, man? Any other thoughts?
No, I think it'll be Munster and Daylight. And I just wouldn't look into a lot of the last week's scores when looking at numbers. There's obviously a lot of inflated numbers from the last week's results. So, if you're out there and looking to swap one, probably wait another week to see what there is out there.
Yeah, well, I was smart enough to start with Cody Walker. I'm using that word "smart" very loosely. And my plan was to go to Munster this week, and I'm still contemplating doing it. But I may actually just wait one more week, just because after round 1 I realised how valuable that trade is now. Started with 25 green dots, and now I've got 20 green dots. So I need to really make sure I hold off on that, I think. Glenn, any of them stand out for you, mate?
Yeah, Jerome Luai, mate. Again, Panthers are a ceiling club, and I really like the game that Luai played. I think Luai is someone who can challenge Munster. I actually have Dylan Brown, and he was looking good up until until the Russell went down. Then they had to move Dylan Brown to centre wing, and then they moved Arthur into the side. And once Arthur came in, everything stopped at him. So that was pretty frustrating. The one I was going to talk about, Chris has already mentioned. I thought Clifford and Clune were terrific the other day in the Newcastle Knights. I think both of them really stood out. And I thought Hastings, but the other one that really stood out to me was Jack Whiten. I thought Whiten had an incredible game, and I think that pack the Raiders have is very conducive. Is that the word? To the kind of play that Whiten plays, that kind of style of play. So, yeah, I think Whiten is also an interesting proposition.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will probably jump on Whiten, but I've played Supercoach for 8.5 years now, and every time Whiten gets a really good score and plays really good, he tends to drop off afterwards. So he's a bit up and down. He might go on a run of 2-3 weeks where he gets like a 75. I think I heard on a podcast today, he's only had, I think, 2 tons in the last 3 years. So the ceiling isn't really there for him, and he hasn't got the consistency at the same time. So I'm going to warn people away from him. But you might get a few lucky scores out of him, but I don't think it'll last.
Can I just mention that he didn't kick it out on the full?
Yeah, I reckon that should be a bet. Can I just add something too? So a lot of the sides are looking very similar. And one of my dislikes on Munster is they have such a strong spine. I mean, they've got Grant, they've got Pappenhausen, they've got Hughes, and they've got Munster. So all 4 of them steal points from my perspective. I think Jerome Luai is a dead set, a good challenge to that. I mean, a lot of the sides are looking very similar at the moment. I looked at so many sides that were put up, and I thought I'd done a lot of research to end on the same team as everyone else, which is kind of frustrating. So if you're looking for a pod, Luai offers that.
I will just say one thing now. If Luai doesn't score that try, he gets 23 points, 24 points.
Well, that's the downside to some of them halves. But I think that the Panthers have such a ceiling in that club. And if you look at that draw, I think they've got a really favourable draw. I agree with you. Munster and Dylan Brown are great for base. They're really good base halves. And that's why I bought Brown, because I know he's got the base at the price point to give me my 40s and 50s whilst I'm building. But I really like what I saw from Luai.
Yeah, I like what I see, because I have to watch him a lot more closely, obviously being the Panthers.
Luai and Munster have the same exact ownership, Billy. So 7.5% for Luai and 7.4% for Munster.
7.4% of them are smart. I started Luai last season, and then I took him right up to round 13, and then I swapped to Cody Walker, and I couldn't have done the transition any better. They both were absolutely on fire for me, and the hype last season was all around Munster at the start as well, and we got the same old. And I'm not going to knock Munster. He's an incredible player, and he looked great in the trials, but I'm not convinced.
Yeah, a lot of people saying that my Munster off the beers. He's going to be like, whenever those players get off the beers and they start coming sober and they just put their head down and ask up. But I'm not sure if you guys watched the 2020s out of Origin. He was not off the beers then, and he was that bloody great player then.
Which beers is he off? But
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, what beers are they? Yeah.
Can I just point out one more thing, Dan? So for me, halves are only as good as the forwards platform laid. And at the moment, from my perspective, the Storm are struggling. They've just lost Welsh as well. And I'm really interested to see how that unfolds. I mean, they're starting Nass, and I think he's an incredible forward. And whenever he's on the field, I have a feeling Nass could even be a buy. I meant to say that earlier. You might see him come on for the start for 20, come back on again in the first half, and then come off and play even more minutes in the third. So you might even see 3 stints from Nass. They might have to do that.
All right, guys, let's move on to the cursed position right now, the centre wing. I've got a few cheapies that I need to try and trade out because they're injured. Any options out there, Chris?
Yeah, I think there's been a few that have come up. Like I know people will be a little bit disappointed in guys like Staggs and Cobbo, but after the performance last week, but they've got a really, really good draw coming up. So if you guys have any of those players, I'd probably hold fast and just wait for that draw to open up, because you'll see it when Adam Reynolds plays this week, but they'll be a completely different team. So definitely those guys. Other than that, I think make sure you have Targo in your sides if you don't already have him. I know he's probably owned by about 99.8% of teams, but if you're that 0.2%, make sure you get him.
57.
Yeah, pretty close to it. But other than that, there's been some interesting options that I've sort of thought about. I know Wacker Blake's a bit of an awkward price at 410K, but he's on that side that the Eels just go to that Sean Russell was on. And I think that he could have a few tries in him this year. So don't sleep on Wacker Blake. And also Iremaya from the Storm. He comes in and he'll be getting a full season at wing. So you might as well have a look at him. He's probably got about 10 points in average. He'll probably go up just being on that wing and being outside of Jerome Hughes. So just a couple of guys around that price range. But other than that, I thought guys that we normally sort of go for, like Lomax, was incredible. I think he's going to be a great option. Is definitely underpriced. So if you can afford to get somebody in and around the 400 or 500K mark, make sure you try and grab him, because he won't stay at that price for long. But other than that, not too much. Gagai looked great. I'm completely shocked. I thought his output would diminish at the Knights, but they know how to use him. So yeah, he's a great option.
Well, what my working theory on a lot of the upsets this week was, I'm not sure if you guys agree, but let me know. I think that these teams, all the teams, have had about 3 months of knowing what the draw is, and had 3 months of being able to study all these guns like Turbo and Teddy and how to manage those players. I don't see the Knights being able to do the same research and same studies and same routines at training in 1 week to prepare for the next team. And that's my working theory. And that's why I reckon also that players like Turbo and Teddy and even Puppy, well, Puppy was pretty good anyway, but are going to step up again this week. Just because I think that, you got 3 months to prepare for one game. And these guys are going to be running drills and how to shut down. You could hear Panthers in that game. They were like, I got Turbo. You could hear him. They were running drills. They were doing this for 3 months. So and that's my working theory. So I think a lot of these guns that we have that didn't quite step up will start stepping up starting round 2, round 3. Any centre wings out there, Brod, for you, mate? Do you?
No, I'd just like to mention that 2 of the people I brought up in my centre wing pod were 2 of the top 4 scoring players. I didn't own them.
Did you bring him in? Yeah, that's the thing.
Kelly was owned by 0.5%, so I should have brought him in. But more my centre wing was very cheap. I didn't even start with Stags. My most expensive player was, Billy Smith and Targo in my centre wing, so I ran it very tight back there. I wish Timmy O was on, because I like to give him crap about Xavier Coates. Because again, scores a try, gets 40 points, which, most of us were saying. But I'll give
40 points, mate.
I'll give him a stab on the next episode.
Glenn, so I'll ask you the same question, mate. But before I do, those with Russell, sell or hold? What do you think?
Oh, it's a sell, mate. I mean, even if he was to come back in 6 weeks, Sevo was probably floating around by then. So I think you just sell. But I mean, sell wisely. I'm selling him to buy Tuolagi and moving Targo down. I think that just before I'd say it, 2 things. One is the centre wing position is the money making position. So a lot of us started cheap there because we know that's where the money is, which is kind of frustrating. The second thing I was going to say was that this season's reminding me very much of 2016. Where the position at centre wing looks best for me to have second rowers and fullbacks. And the ones that stood out for me in that sense were Aiken, Sloan, the Hammer. I thought Kelly, was good. But the other one that you mentioned before, Chris, was Staggs and Cobbo. I thought Cobbo looked really good. The result wasn't good points-wise, but I thought his work rate was good. I just struggled again with the Broncos to see why they have such a lethal edge, but the ball just didn't seem to find it there as much as it needed to. Hopefully, A-Ray straightens that up. And I did start Stags. And fortunately for me, not fortunately, but Russell went down, so that allows me to bring down Targo. Targo, I have an interesting theory that I might be wrong on, but I have a feeling when Salmon came on, Targo moved into the second row. So I'm going to watch out for that this week to see, because he made 29 tackles and he had 39 in pure base, which is quite phenomenal, really, for a centre wing. So Targo, and the other one that hasn't been mentioned was Penasini. He went about his work quietly and still managed to motor up a fairly good score. So, Penasini was good. Kelly, Sammy, Stags, Cobbo. And one other one I want to mention is Stephen Crichton from the Panthers. After that game, I came away saying one sentence: I need more Panthers. And so I think that ceiling clubs offer you that ceiling score. So look at the players from the Panthers, mate, at the moment, because they're the only one that really stood out to me this round.
Yeah,
with Russell, I'm holding till next week to see which ones go up and will have the best break even.
Can I just say to what Chris said is a very, very valid point, that sometimes it's not the player, it's the position on the field. And the left edge on the Parramatta Eels, as you saw, Russell ran in 3 tries. So people who are discounting Wacker Blake, do that at your own peril, because they will score on that edge repeatedly.
Yeah, I've always liked Wacker Blake as a player too. When back in his Penrith days, I like him. He's got that aggression on the field, and even he brings that to Parra too. He just needs to get the ball more. And if he's on that busy edge there, the dangerous Sevo edge, that's a great little call out. I know. I just think he's that awkward price, which is just a little bit out of my reach at the moment. I'm not trading Stags out to him.
And if he wants to be a show pony, Dan, he needs to learn to do it right. You know, when Coates did his big dive for the try, he used his left hand, put the ball down to fend off the incoming player. That's not what he done. Wacker Blake went in with his right hand, which enabled the player to knock the ball out of his hand. And so that big show pony jump he did was for North. And but yeah, he will be at the end of a really good sweep over and over. And so if he can just do his job and not, put on all that fancy stuff and just go for the line, I actually think he's a good shout, Chris. I agree with you on Wacker Blake.
Yeah, if he does play for Parramatta, so they've got the king of the show ponies there in Gutho. So hopefully, hopefully Gutho can give him a few lessons in the in training.
Gutharina.
Yeah, I'm looking at centre wings now, and I'm doing what Brod is. I'm actually going to wait on Russell. I've got a solid 17 that I can play this week, and it is trying to find the right guy. I'm looking right now because I haven't got no cash in the bank, and I'm looking at the same price. You got Sammy Valame. Don't think he's worth it, and you got Cody Ramsey, which I just don't. He might get a score every now and then. And then you've got, I already got Penasini. So all the cheapies, I actually nailed most of the cheapies. I even got Tuolangi from Tigers as well. So I've nailed all the cheapies. So I can't actually trade right now. I'll have to find out one of those cheap guys.
You have Cobbo?
I haven't got Cobbo, but I've got no cash. So my plan was to hold trades this week and actually trade boost next week. Use the 3 trades, and that'll help me free up a bit of cash. So I know I planned if I was going to trade this week and make the 2 trades to fix it, I know next week something bad's going to happen, and I'm going to use the 2 trades again and probably trade boost as well. So I might hold off when I don't need to worry about it and go from there. All right, so we'll move on to the final position, the fullbacks. Which fullbacks stood out for you and which ones didn't, mate? Chris?
Yeah, it was a bit of a dog's breakfast, wasn't it? You had the $1 million man Turbo. He got about 60. Which is, very underwhelming for guys that paid that price for him. But you really didn't get much from any of the recognised fullbacks. Tedesco, I captained him for about 30. So I'm feeling really good with myself at the moment. You had Dylan Edwards, the surprise packets. It ran for about 345 metres. I think that equated to about 77 SuperCoach points. So he's a quiet option. He probably doesn't have the upside of the rest of the guys like Teddy and Turbo. But look, if he's going to score you 70 odd points a week, and most being in base, you can't ignore him. But The one guy I'm probably going to do a shout out about is he's coming back into the side this week. There's actually two of them, goal kicking fullbacks. So you got Reece Walsh at the Warriors. I really think people need to have a close look at him, because if you're in that situation, which I know a lot of people are, where they've got Teddy and they're contemplating upgrading Teddy to a Travojevic, and with the fact that Teddy's going to be dropping a bunch of money if he has a couple of bad scores, which is looking likely because he's probably a little bit underdone because he had that knee issue. I think downgrading him to a guy like Walsh could be your answer to save that money. Whereas I don't think Walsh is going to drop anything from being around 555,000. So that's definitely a strategy to think of, to use if you want to. There's also Latrell Mitchell. I had a look at him the other day. He's looking not that fit. So I'm not super confident that he's going to start well, and his draw is a bit on the hard side. So, but yeah, definitely consider Reece Walsh. He's one of those guys that he's not going to lose money, and he may just surprise you because he's got a fairly good opening draw.
Yeah, I do agree. I noticed that we had a pretty, we drew the short end of the short. Sorry, we drew the short straw. I'll talk eventually. On the turbo draw, how he got those two really tough games and then gets that really easy draw against the Dogs when he's about to lose money. I think that we got lucky with Latrell, where we get to actually watch him for 4 games, where he has 4 hard games, or actually 3 now. And then he has a really sweet looking draw from round 5 onwards. So we get to watch him for 3-4 games before we can even think about getting him in. And like you said, if he's not looking fit, then you know what, we have a chance to get a look at him and yes, a yay or nay, I guess. But I actually have been thinking about going Teddy to Walsh. That was one of my big thoughts of the week, and I'll be watching Walsh very, very closely this week. Brod, anything from you, mate?
Yeah, all the big ones shut the bed. You know, Turbo, another week like that, and he'll be looking to lose a lot of money in the next couple of weeks. But same with the other boys. I think Puppy's going to step up with the rest of the spine back. But we'll just have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, Glenn, anything else from you, mate?
I know you've pretty covered it all. I will say this on Pappenhausen. So the first half of Paps wasn't very good. When Nass came on the field, he really straightened up their attack and it allowed him. But I think a few people dodged Paps because of Meany being in the side, taking the goal kicking. Meany's dropped out of those numbers. So that makes Pappenhausen goal kicking again. So I didn't mind what I saw from Pappenhausen. He looked tentative in the first half. He got more active in the second. What I saw from Teddy was concerning. He didn't take any dummy half runs. He didn't, the two most disappointing players for me this round were Tedesco and Tamalolo. They just didn't do anything, and there was a lot of disappointing players, but, with all the hype around the two, I was quite disappointed. And I'm worried about the Roosters in general, to be honest. They didn't play many trials. They lack fitness. So let's hope that they are a class side and they come back. But you boys have covered everything. I agree with Chris on Walsh. I really like Walsh. I'm not as keen on the Warriors as other people are. I tip Dragons. I don't think that they'll win as many games as people think they will. But I still think Walsh is a class act at that price point, and it's a fair comment to trade down to him, hold that coin, make a bit of coin, and get yourself to Turbo. Doesn't sound too bad a strategy for me.
Yeah, and I will say, because I know Brod's ticking over right now, about probably 3 months ago, I think in a chat we were in, Brod actually said Warriors for wooden spoon, and now he's starting to think the same thing. So I'll say, well done, Brod. You got that one, I think you. The Warriors aren't looking too good either, but I think Walsh back does help him a little bit, but I don't think they're as good as people think they are as well. I do agree. I thought with Teddy, when he started the game, I was watching that game very closely because obviously he was my captain. I thought he looked more interested on the field. I was actually watching him a lot, and he looked pretty good. And then they had that disallowed try, and he lost complete interest in that game. The whole momentum swung. And then if you heard the press conference at the end, he was pretty upset about that no try. He actually had a few words to say at the press conference about that no try, and he said it was a try. So you can see that really got to him. So, and after that no try, which is only 15 minutes in, don't get me wrong, he just lost interest. And I think he's also trying to step back and let the halves do their thing, which last year he didn't do that. He didn't have that luxury. So I think you'll see a new Teddy this week, I'm hoping anyway.
Well, I want to address that. So if you're a first grade player who's as important as Tedesco is, and you allow a decision to alter the whole way you play a game, then I'd take a really serious look in the mirror. I'm hoping that's not what happened, but I mean, you know, I've played a lot of sport in my life, and the minute a decision's made, good or bad, you put it behind you and you move on to the next, you know, and you play 100% on every play. That's just how a professional should play the game. So Teddy didn't take any runs from dummy half. He didn't seem to put himself in the position where the ball was like he always does. Look, I'm putting it down to fitness. I think TKO, JWH and Tedesco all looked undercooked. And I think that you might see a different three of those around 3 or 4. So I'm saying be patient. Don't, you know, everyone's on them. But as I said, the sides are looking very familiar, and I'm starting to think to myself, I want to change a bit. And I'm looking at where I can get those points that are, you know, are lower owned players, under 10% players.
You know, I do agree because, as you know, there was an interrupted season there with Teddy as well. He had to have that stem cell surgery in the off season as well, so he did bugger all training beforehand as well. So that does make a lot of sense. And I don't really agree because I know that in the past I've played a game of cricket and the umpire gives me a bad call, and I will think about it all game, and I'll be ready to meet him in the car park after the game as well. So I'm not a professional, clearly, and I think Rod will agree with you. He's seen me play cricket as well. So. All right. Well, that's all the positions there. So let's talk about trades. I've already made it clear that I'm not making any trades this week. Glenn, you making any trades, mate?
I'm making one. Yeah, I'm bringing in Tuolagi. So Tuolagi was in my side, and then that Warriors cheapie got named, and for some reason I thought that was a great idea, and I moved Targo up there and bought myself the extra cheapie because I'm greedy and wanted more money. And so I've made a mistake. I own it, and that's what a good coach should do. Is if you've made a mistake, fix it straight away. Mm-hmm. I don't have Tuolagi, so that's where I'm going. That's the only trade I'm making this round. Can I just add something too, Dan, so that people out there know? Everybody across the board scored bad. There was only 3 players that scored post 100 scores. The difference between 80,000 and 20,000 is 100 points. So if you're at 80,000, 90,000 or 50,000, don't stress. This has been a very low scoring round across the board for every single coach. You know, a lot of the good sides struggled and a lot of the crap sides did really well. And I'm not saying that. I mean, there's also some good sides did well, you know. So all I'm saying is just guys out there, don't panic, don't rage trade. Just sit back, wait a week, fix things that are broken, but don't just trade for the sake of trading.
Yeah, I'm surprised that's the mentality I came in with this week. Was like, I think I made a few comments about my trade habits. I'm normally a bit of a tradeaholic, and I normally just get rage trade straight up and try and pick my team straight away. But I've actually made the conscious decision to hold because I actually still am very happy with my team, minus the injuries. But I think I've got another whole week to look, and I've got all the cheapies, so all I need to look at is who's going to make more money for me next week. So, Brod, any trades for you, mate?
I only lost 2 cheapies from the centre wing. So I'll have another week before I move on them. Another one, the only one I'm looking at is Haas, but I just don't know who to drop out. You know, I've got the money there to pick him up. I just don't know if the points or the money that I want to make, or leaving that cash in the bank for Cleary as soon as he's back. So I'll have a big day's thought about it before I start. Yeah, it'll all come down to that one trade if I really want Haas this week.
Yeah, no, good call, mate. Chris, any trades you making this week, mate?
Yeah, I've got a bit of a decision to make. I was like you, Daniel. I started with Cody Walker, trying to get those points against the Broncos in the first week, and then I was going to go down to Munster. So that's still the case. I'm going to trade Cody Walker to Munster. And the second trade, I've got a couple of options. I'm either going to trade Russell to either Martin from the Panthers and bring down probably Fermor into the centres, or I will trade Russell to his replacement counterpart Wacker Blake. I'm not too sure on each one. I could go either way. So, those are going to be my trades. I'm not going to use the boost. I may use the boost next week just to see how all those potential money earners perform, and then make a decision then, I suppose. But those are the two immediates, just to get rid of Walker, because I think he's just going to drop a bunch of coin and he's just going to perform badly for most of the season. It's so hard for him to. It's so hard to, like, I guess, underestimate how important Adam Reynolds is in that team. Like, they have all the other pieces of the puzzle, and now they've replaced the main piece of the puzzle with a complete rookie, and it's just not working for them. And I don't know if they're going to work it out until halfway through the season. But until then, I'm getting off the Cody Walker train, and I'm probably going to stay away from any backs from South Sydney.
Yeah, well, I'm sticking strong with Cody Walker for one more week, only because, like I said, I have no real other issues to deal with, so I can actually wait one more week. I can use him to Munster if worst case comes, and then I can potentially go, if Teddy's crap again, I can potentially go Teddy to Walsh, and that will free me up another gun in the centre wing where I can go Russell, and I should be able to go a decent gun in the centre wing. So, but that's just me for next week. I'll be looking at a trade booth next week. We'll start with the VCCs. Glenn, mate, any thoughts there on VC and C this week?
Yeah, so my option is VC Pappenhausen, and I'm likely going to either see Diva Fafita or Haas. That's my, it's pretty basic, but I did have an out there one. I was also considering Stags, and I know it's scary, but I really want to go something different, and I'm thinking Stags isn't a bad option either.
Yeah, I actually VC'd Stags last week, and what good that did me. Broad, mate, how about you, mate?
Yeah, as I said before, all over Grant for VC this week. I just don't see the points in the game at the moment. Completely changed last year, so I think it's more the forward pack. So, I'm probably going to look at the Fafita, especially against the Warriors. I haven't even looked at one of the backs this week to captain, so it's definitely the forwards that I'm liking this year.
Yeah, that's why I've been trying. I think we had a conversation before, me and you, Brod, that I do agree with you. I think it is more leaning towards the forwards in the second row, especially, and that's why I decided that my decision is to build my second row really strong. That's why I'm sticking with it, and I'm pretty happy with that. I look at my team now. I had some pretty bad scores in centre wing, but my lowest score in the second row was Tuolungi at 46. And so I got 60, 66, 58, 53, 56, 46. So that's not my problem. So my problem is definitely elsewhere, mainly the halves. But I'm going very vanilla as well. I'm probably going to go for Fafita as captain and Puppy as VC. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, it's probably going to be straight C on Pappenhausen. I just think it's a really good matchup for him. Other than that, if I don't do that, it'd probably be David Fafita.
Yeah, I'm liking Fafita a lot this game, but I'm also, it happens every year where you have that perfect matchup every single year, and then there's that guy that it's a clear-cut captain, then he gets your 40 points, and that's why I'm having that little fear about that right now. But I think
I'll take 40 any day after last week.
Yeah, it's 10 more or 20 more if you include the captain. So I'll take that as well.
Can I just put something on Cody Walker? So I agree with you, Chris, that their season's going to be a regression from last season. But I think the addition of Latrell Mitchell is a great addition for Cody Walker. I think that you'll see more from Cody Walker this week with Latrell in the side. So I'd at least wait 1 week to have a look how it plays out with Latrell. And I'm not as behind on Ilias as you guys. I actually think he's a great little half, and I think you'll see that as the season unfolds. The guy's a really good front-on defender. He's younger, in my opinion. He's everything A-Ray was. He's just doesn't have the experience A-Ray had. And once he learns to get into the line like A-Ray did, and he gets that experience, I think you'll see by round 7 or 8 a different Ilias.
I reckon he'll be injured by then.
Well, let's hope not, mate. I mean, I don't want injuries on anyone. I mean,
no, I'm saying, it's exactly the same as Walker. I think that that smaller body, and people are just going to test them, and their bodies are young, and they won't be able to. We all know Illies will not play 25 games this year.
Well,
There's no way.
Last year's football really suited South Sydney. It was an up-style, fast tempo type of game. And before I knew that that's what we had, I actually challenged the South Sydney forwards. I didn't think they had it. And now losing Sewer, Gagai, I mean, I think they've lost a little grunt in that side. So I'm with you in that. If we have the game the way it looked last week and it's forward heavy, I think that doesn't favour South. They really need that fast tempo game. And they tried to manufacture it with Host and Arrow, Murray, trying to get them quick plays the balls, but they just weren't quite getting it right.
Play the balls. What was they only penalised in the Broncos game?
Because they're from Queensland. That should be the status quo.
Oh, it wasn't just against us, but just funny because it was only pulled up that game. Wasn't pulled up the game before, and then I didn't see it. Just refereed different.
I think the Broncos will come good too. I think give them 5 or 6 games. I thought they looked really good with Walters, and I thought Kelly. I think Kelly offers the experience, but I think young Walters, when he warms into that position, I think I actually like Pakes. I think if Pakes makes his way into that side as well, I really like his heads-up play. I think that he offers more than Turpin. I think, I've said it to you in the chats many times. On paper, the Broncos have an incredible side. I just wish they'd get a different coach. I just think that with a different coach, that side could be top 4.
Yeah, I think just to interject there, I think you'll be surprised, or you probably won't be because you've probably seen him play hooker at the Tigers. But I think that Billy Walters will be full-time hooker by the end of the year. I'm pretty confident in that because he adds a lot to that position.
And I think that they need to get him into the side somewhere. I agree with you, Chris, that that's a likely scenario that he says to himself, look, I need to go Kelly and A-Ray in the halves. I need to find Billy into this side somewhere. And I mean, that he offers, I mean, the hooker position, I don't think people understand how important it is to a football side. Every first decision is made from number 9, left, right, where that ball goes. And it's so important. That's why you see the good sides with Grant, Cook, all those sort of sides where they get that ball, they get those little decisions right most of the time. They put that ball out in front of those forwards and they get them running forward. So many hookers I see, they pick the ball up, they give it to the halfback who's standing flat, and they just don't understand, or give it to the forward who stands flat and it's my turn to run and goes. They don't understand the concept of putting the ball out in front of them so that they move on and they're forever getting that forward momentum. And those sides like the Storm, the Panthers, that's what they do really well. And so it'll be interesting. I'm keen to see what the Broncos can do. As I said, I don't have a lot of faith in the coach, but I do think you've got a very young side. I think you bought well. I really like A-Ray and I really like Capewell. I think they're really good buys. And I do like Pakes. I think Pakes is interesting. And I do like Walters too.
Yeah, all good, guys. I think that about wraps it up tonight anyway. Is there anything else you guys need to say before we head it off?
Can I just offer an interesting statistic? So 5 times that I've made the top 1,000, I've max traded the first 3 rounds. The 2 times that I didn't make the top 2,000, both times I held trades. This week I'm holding trades, and it better not be a bloody omen because my son has actually got the same stat. The 2 seasons where he hasn't max traded in the initial rounds, he hasn't finished in the top 1,000 either. Interesting.
What are you going to do, Glennie? Huh?
I don't know, mate, but I'm what's the word? Superstitious. So I'm tempted.
Well, I have, and I haven't maxed round, and I haven't made the top 1,000, so it doesn't bother me.
I've max traded a couple of times, and and that didn't work out good for me. So that's hopefully good news for you there, Glenn.
Yeah, well, you got to trade.
That's why I made top 1,000, mate, was when I didn't trade the first 2 rounds. So
yeah,
go, Glenn. All right, guys, is that it?
Enjoy,
guys. See
guys.
See you next week.
See you guys.
See ya.
I want to win. I want that trophy. Throw it up! Throw it up! Throw it up! I want that trophy. Throw it up! Throw it up! Throw it up! I want that trophy.